Well, hello again, everyone. Taylor Osbourn here, County Agent in Gillespie County, and we're here on our second day of videos for our lamb guidelines and classification. Like I said in the first video, working with Brad Roeder and Jamie Osbourn, and we're moving on to Southdowns today. And all you guys out there looking for some Southdowns to buy for the upcoming show year, pay attention here. We'll be going over the good things that we're looking for in terms of the ideal characteristics, and then maybe a few things that you should be cautious of when you're out there purchasing your projects. As like we said in the first video, these are just our opinions of the stock and how we interpret the rules. And like we said, each person can interpret those differently, but it's just our opinion. And I think very nice set that we have here for you guys to look at. Brad Roeder is going to go over them once again on our Southdown breed characteristics.
All right, everyone, we're here looking at some Southdowns that haven't been sheared for some classification. And today assisting us, we have Mr. Brody Roeder, Mr. Briley Roeder, Miss Briley Roeder, Jamie Osbourn, and Taylor Osbourn. And I'm Brad Roeder, County Agent in Gillespie County. So today we just wanted to go over the ins and outs of looking at some downs. These hadn't been sheared yet, but we can still go over some things, and sometimes we're picking out lambs that hadn't been sheared. So I'm going to go over here to the one Briley's holding and start off. I think this is kind of the most ideal head that we have on a Southdown. See the brown muzzling on his nose, has really good pigmentation on his nose, really good wool covering on his ears, and a really broad head, just a real down head. Somebody says kind of like they got a beard and they look like a grandfather. Head looks a little proportional, and that's what we like to look at. As we go down this lamb, he's got really good wool covering all over, kind of got a mousy brown color all the way down, and his hooves are black, and that's what we're looking for. So just in my mind, a pretty legit Southdown right here. So as we go over, we've got some other variations here. Mr. Brody's got one. Probably got a little more chalk around his nose up there. Also is a little wider, but really has some pigmentation there on the nose. Maybe a pink spot or two, but I think more than acceptable. Probably just a tick of chalk around the eye, but that's still acceptable as long as it doesn't go down where the halter is in the eye channel. As we get to his ears, he gets maybe a little more concerning. Maybe just a tick long. Also, there's not a lot of wool covering on these ears. It does have some hair covering, which is good, but this is maybe getting just a tick chalky, so something we might want to watch out. Not a definite deal breaker, but if they start adding up all these points, then we may want to leave this guy alone. As we go back and look at him, head shape though is pretty good. Pretty downy in his head shape. He's short and broad in his muzzle, and he's wide between the eyes. As we scroll down and start to look at his hooves and maybe the amount of color that he has, he's a little light back here in his boots. We could add a little more color, but I don't think it's again a deal breaker. And we look at his hooves down there, and they're dark. So I think this guy, all in all, would probably get classed in most of the time. But just knowing if you bought one like this, might every once in a while get a red chip thrown on you. As we go over here, the one Mr. Osbourn has, again, one with a little more less pigmentation on his nose is why we caught him. Again, I think it's acceptable, but we just have a few black spots there and have some purplish. If this was all pink nose, then we'd really start to worry about this guy. Probably this guy's got a little more color coming up into his muzzle, which again is we really need to probably shear this guy and look at his head and look at how far that color goes up. But again, still nothing really major in his red flags right here on this guy. Really good wool covering on his ears. The ears might, in my mind, are about adequate in length. If we got longer ears or ears that set up higher on the top of his head, then we might be concerned. Another thing we didn't talk about is horns. All three of these sheep are really good. They're not open polled. They're really good in the wool covering their horns. They don't have scurs. They don't have horns as of yet. They might get a scur, but that's something that all three of these sheep had that were really good. This guy, as we go down and scroll and look at him, the color in his boots and stuff, in my mind, looks very acceptable. So I think all in all, three sheep that would probably classify, but we'd need to probably shear them just to make sure there wasn't any hidden exposures there. All right, we're here looking at some other downs we just caught. we just wanted to maybe show you we found a lamb or two with a few problems that we want you to look at. First, we're going to start here with this baby. This baby's got what I would consider probably a birthmark. Birthmarks are discriminatory on the new rules, so if everything else was right, and this lamb, it's getting a little large in size, and you can see it's probably coming through the wool. This is different. Some sheep are going to have just spots in the skin that's not going to come through the wool, kind of like similar to the Dorper. It's pigment in the skin, but it's going to be a circle typically, and but you can usually tell that it's only going to be in the skin. So, and those are very acceptable. This one right here, like I said, it's coming a little bit more through the wool, and so it's something we'd have to look at the rest of the lamb to make sure it was all right. As we get over here, one Brody has, we've got one that's in my mind getting a little big in the ear. Turn his head around, Brody, so we can get when you look at the back of these lambs. Also, the ear set's just a tick high. They sit a little closer together on top of the head, and as this guy runs around, they point up towards the top, and the ears are real pointy. So he's not a definite kick out, but it's definitely something we'd take into consideration. And as we can see, they're a lot longer. The shape's not right, and the set's not right. But he does have pretty good wool covering over it, so we're not concerned about that. Let's look at his nose. I think his nose doesn't have a lot of pigment. Nose, Brody, you know where that is? All right, so here's one that's got a good purple nose, but it's not a black nose. So it's still acceptable, but it's not. If it was pink, getting a lot pinker, then we'd definitely really be concerned about this sheep. So this is one we might call a 50-50, but with that ear set, depending on how it looks when you shear them off and how big they are, he's probably going to get chipped in a lot of places.
Well, as we round out that second video, very, very good job again done by Brad Roeder and getting all that explained on the different breed type and character that we're looking for in those Southdowns. I think we had a great set put together for you guys with some very, very good differences and some different things to look at, definitely, and some things that are maybe a little controversial at times, but definitely something to look at and to be thinking about when you're out there purchasing those projects. Like we said, again, this is just our opinion on these guidelines and just things that we look for when we're out there helping families and kids pick out their projects. If you don't mind, give us a like and a share, and if you have any questions, please put them in the comment box below. And if you learned something new that you didn't know, please drop those in there as well. We'd love to hear about that. Appreciate you guys tuning in again. Tune in tomorrow. We'll be going over finals then. Thank you.